Ever felt like a puppet, and you didn't even know who was pulling the strings? You second-guess yourself. You feel trapped. And the worst part, you don't even know how it started. Manipulators don't fight fair. They distort reality, plant doubt, and control you without ever needing to raise their voice. They make you feel powerless. They make you question your own thoughts, and before you know it, you're playing their game. But what if you could flip the script? What if, instead of being the puppet, you became the one pulling the strings? Every manipulator has a weakness, and once you see it, you can flip the game on them. In this video, I'll break down the exact power moves that will turn their own manipulation against them, so you become the one in control. By the end of this video, you won't just see through their games, you'll turn their own tricks against them. Manipulation isn't power, it's an illusion of power. The entire game is built on deception, on making you believe you have no control, when in reality, you hold all the cards. Manipulators can't control you directly, so instead, they create a false reality where you control yourself, on their terms. A manipulator's strongest weapon isn't control, it's confusion. They make you question your judgment, your memory, even your emotions. You confront them, they say you're overreacting. You recall something clearly, they insist it never happened. The more you doubt yourself, the easier you are to control. Because once they make you unsure of your own reality, they become the only reality you trust. They don't just control your thoughts, they control how you feel. They alternate between affection and withdrawal, praise and criticism, validation and rejection. One moment, they lift you up. The next, they tear you down. Why? Because emotional instability keeps you craving their approval, seeking validation from the very person breaking you. They don't need to trap you physically, they trap you emotionally, so even when they're not around, they still control you. No manipulator takes control all at once. That would be too obvious. Instead, they push little by little, a small favor here, a broken promise there, a harmless insult disguised as a joke. At first, you brush it off, but every time you do, they push further. Before you realize it, you're doing things you never thought you'd tolerate. But by then, it feels normal. Manipulation isn't about force, it's about conditioning. They train you to accept control one small step at a time. A manipulator's real strength isn't in controlling you, it's in making you predictable. They know exactly what buttons to push, what words will make you angry, what silence will make you anxious, what guilt will make you comply. They provoke you, not because they enjoy the reaction, but because the more you react, the more predictable you become. And when they can predict your emotions, they control your decisions. The unspoken rule of manipulation. Every manipulator relies on one thing, your compliance. They need you to play by their rules, to react how they expect, to stay caught in their web. That's why they choose their victims carefully, people who care too much, who hesitate to push back, who second-guess themselves. Because as long as you hesitate, as long as you play their game, they win. Here's the secret: every manipulator has the same weakness. They don't actually have power over you. They just have power over your reactions. They need you to doubt yourself. They need you to seek their approval. They need you to react exactly as they expect. But the moment you stop playing by their rules, the entire game falls apart. So here's the key. Once you stop reacting the way they expect, the whole game changes. Manipulators study you. They observe your weaknesses, your fears, your reactions. Every move they make is calculated. But what happens when the observer becomes the observed? What if you could turn their tactics against them, without them even realizing it? The easiest way to dismantle a manipulator: make them face themselves. People like this don't just manipulate randomly. They have patterns, scripts, predictable ways they deceive, guilt trip, and control others. And once you recognize those patterns, you can flip the game on them by mirroring their own tactics back at them. A manipulator thrives when they're in control of the interaction, but the moment they see their own behavior reflected back, they start losing their grip. They accuse you of being too sensitive. Flip it. Wow, I didn't realize you were so sensitive about this either. They play the victim. Mirror it. It's funny because I actually feel like I'm the one being misunderstood here. They use passive-aggressive comments. Feed it back. I guess that's your way of saying you're upset. Just say it directly. Manipulators expect you to fall into their trap. But when you respond with the same energy, they freeze. If they use guilt to control you, use guilt to expose them. They say, after everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. You say, funny, I was about to say the same thing. After all I've put up with, this is how you treat me. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to explain. But when you reflect their words back at them, it forces them to confront their own tactics. Manipulators thrive on predictability. They count on you reacting the way they expect, but when you mirror them, the script flips. Suddenly, they're not the ones leading the conversation anymore. They're stuck reacting to you. Most manipulators don't see themselves as the problem. They believe they're the smartest person in the room. But when their tactics get mirrored back, they feel exposed. It's like holding a mirror to a liar and watching them squirm. A manipulator's greatest fear: losing control of the game they created. When you don't react the way they expect, they start to question themselves. They become hesitant, cautious, and suddenly they're playing defense instead of offense. Because the truth is, manipulators don't actually want conflict. They want compliance. And when they feel like they're losing control of you, they start to unravel. Once you've disrupted their control, it's time to make them doubt themselves. Manipulators feed off one thing: your emotions. Every argument, every reaction, every moment of frustration you show them, it's fuel. It's proof that they still have control. But what happens when you take that fuel away? Imagine trying to play a game where the other person refuses to participate. No reactions, no engagement, no interest. That's exactly what the grey rock technique does. It starves manipulators of what they need most. A manipulator thrives on getting a response from you: anger, guilt, frustration. But the moment you become unshakable, they start to lose their grip. They insult you, you shrug. They guilt trip you, you nod and say, okay. They try to start a fight, you look at your phone and say, sure. Manipulators expect instant reactions. That's how they control the conversation. But what if you wait? What if you pause before answering, or even ignore them for a while? The silence becomes deafening. They start overthinking. They lose patience. Manipulators expect engagement. They expect you to explain yourself, to justify, to fight back. But when you respond with nothing but monotone, short answers, they get nothing. Why are you ignoring me? I'm not. You don't even care, do you? Guess not. You're being ridiculous. All right. If they push you, repeat the same neutral phrase over and over. It frustrates them. It makes them realize they have no power over you. Why are you acting like this? I don't know. You're just trying to make me mad. I don't know. Seriously, that's all you have to say. I don't know. A manipulator wants you to fight back, because the moment you do, they've got you where they want you, engaged, reactive, emotional. But if you refuse to play, they're left talking to a wall. Your silence, your indifference, it's not weakness. It's control. Words can be twisted, but a blank stare, it's undeniable. Look at them without emotion. Hold eye contact. Let them feel the emptiness. Why this works. Manipulators are like parasites. They need emotional energy to survive. When you stop feeding them, they move on. Every reaction they've counted on, gone. Every emotional trigger they used, useless. Now, they're the ones feeling powerless. A manipulator without control is a manipulator who starts slipping. They overplay their hand. They get desperate. They make reckless moves. The more they struggle to regain control, the weaker they appear. And the weaker they appear, the stronger you become. Because the truth is, manipulators don't actually want a fair fight. They want a reaction. And when you give them nothing, they self-destruct. Now let's take it one step further. How to make them chase you. What if I told you, you don't just have to defend yourself against manipulation. You can turn it against them. Manipulators think they're the puppet masters. But today, you learn how to cut the strings and make them dance instead. A manipulator's greatest weapon, control over how you think and react. But once you start flipping their tactics back on them, the game isn't theirs anymore. It's yours. Manipulators love to make you feel powerless. They corner you, limit your options, and force you into decisions that benefit them. But what happens when you turn that same tactic against them? Instead of fighting their control, you give them choices, both of which work in your favor. A manipulator wants you to explain yourself. Instead of defending, you say, would you rather discuss this calmly or revisit it later? Now they feel like they have control, except both choices keep you in power. They demand an answer immediately. Say, do you want the short answer or the detailed version? Either way, you control the pacing of the conversation. Instead of just offering two options, subtly hint that they might not be prepared for either. Example, are you sure you're ready to have this conversation now, or would you prefer to think about it first? Now, they're questioning whether they should continue pressing you at all. They feel like they're choosing, but really, you're leading them where you want. It prevents them from cornering you into their game. It subtly reinforces that you are the one in control now. Manipulators hate uncertainty. They thrive on controlling your reactions. But what if you gave them nothing? When you refuse to react, they don't just lose control, they start panicking. Pause before responding. Let them fill the silence. Act as if you're considering their words, even if you already know your answer. The longer they wait, the more they overthink. They accuse you of something, expecting you to defend yourself. Just look at them, say nothing, let the weight of silence work against them. They demand a response. Take a deep breath, look away. then calmly say, "Interesting." Now, they are the ones scrambling to regain control. After a long pause, repeat their exact words back to them, but in a questioning tone. Example, they say, "You never listen to me." You pause, then say, "I never listen to you." Now they're forced to explain or justify themselves instead of keeping the pressure on you. They start second-guessing their own moves. The silence makes them uncomfortable, making them overcompensate and expose themselves. You break their rhythm, forcing them to adapt to your pace. Manipulators rely on your predictability, but what happens when you become unpredictable? Make them believe they're losing control, and they will lose control. Pretend you don't understand their tactics. Ask vague, leading questions that throw them off balance. Force them to explain themselves, exposing their own manipulation. They try gaslighting you. Instead of fighting back, say, "Wait, that's strange. I remember it differently. Are you sure?" Now, they are the ones justifying, not you. They try guilt-tripping you. Instead of reacting emotionally, say, "I don't get it. Could you explain why I should feel guilty?" Now they are struggling to maintain their narrative. Take it one step further. Act genuinely surprised when they try to manipulate you. Example, "Wait, were you trying to guilt-trip me just now? That's funny." Now you've exposed them openly, and they have no choice but to backtrack. They start doubting their own tactics. It forces them to break their usual patterns. They become emotionally invested in trying to fix the situation on your terms. Why reverse manipulation works. The moment they feel like their control is slipping, doubt creeps in. Manipulators don't expect their own tricks to be used against them. Once they see it happening, they panic. And the more they try to get their power back, the more they lose it. Manipulators work best when they're in control of the game, but when they're forced to react to you, their entire strategy falls apart. Because in the end, the true master of manipulation isn't the one who plays the game. It's the one who controls the game. Now, let's lock in the final move. How to make sure they never manipulate you again. There's a moment every manipulator dreads. The moment they realize they've lost control. They built their web, set their traps, pulled the strings, and yet you're walking away, untouched. But how you leave determines everything. Manipulation is about access. If they can reach you, they can control you. That's why most people never truly escape. They leave, but keep the door open. They walk away, but still explain themselves. They try to disappear, but still check in. And that's exactly what the manipulator wants. They don't need you to stay. They just need you to hesitate. So here's the rule. You leave, and you don't look back. This isn't about ghosting. This isn't about running away. This is about shutting them down, permanently. Here's how you make sure they never pull you back in. A manipulator's worst nightmare, losing control of the ending. They expect drama. They expect arguments. They expect closure. Give them nothing. No drawn-out explanations. No final debates. No second chances. You decide when it ends, and when it does, it's final. They try to bait you with guilt, with anger, with fake apologies. Your response? None. If they ask why you're acting this way, just say, "You'll figure it out." Then leave. Now, they're the ones chasing answers. Manipulators thrive on knowing what's in your head. They need to understand your thoughts, your emotions, your next move. So you make sure they never do. If they demand an explanation, keep it vague. If they push for a reaction, stay unreadable. If they test you, don't engage. They say, "I don't get why you're acting this way." You respond, "You don't have to." Then walk away. Change your routine. Cut them off completely. Make them wonder where you are, what you're thinking, and why they can't reach you. The more they wonder, the more they spiral. You don't just leave, you make them feel the void you left behind. Because here's the truth, manipulators don't miss you, they miss their control over you. Cut off contact. No calls, no texts, no explanations. Erase their presence from your life, remove their number, block if needed. Focus on your growth. The best revenge. Becoming untouchable. If they check in with a, "Hey, just wondering how you're doing," you don't respond. Let them feel the silence. If they see you thriving without them, they'll try to get a reaction. You stay indifferent. No hate, no anger, just nothing. If they try to guilt trip you, say, "I'm not interested in the past anymore." That one sentence shatters their illusion of control. What happens when you execute this perfectly? 1. You become the one they can't control. They realize they've lost their grip on you, and that realization destroys them. 2. They start questioning their own tactics. If they can't manipulate you, they wonder, "Why isn't it working?" They realize too late. You were always ahead of them. And the worst part? They never saw it coming. Because in the end, the true winner isn't the one who fights the longest. It's the one who knows exactly when to walk away. If you're ready to master control, hit subscribe. And if you've ever flipped the game on a manipulator, drop a comment, "I own the game." Power isn't given, it's taken.